Hello, everybody. Welcome to Town Hall. Great to have you with us. I am going to be joined, or I am joined by Lee to talk about strategic planning. But in terms of the small talk, we're both just here on the first floor with hardly a view. Lee has no windows. I can see the sun is out today, so I know that's a good thing. But Lee, do you have any plans for the weekend?
No, probably just going to catch up on a little bit of rest and sleep. It's been a busy time for the university.
Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna go see the DeSable Art Museum on the South Side, which I have not been to. So I'm looking forward to that. And maybe a lunch at Medici's on the South Side, which is
Pizza.
yeah, well, or a burger or something. I don't know. Um, but I had I'll just start off with a little bit of, I'll head straight into some news here. I had the pleasure of visiting three of our clinical sites over this week: Edward Hospital in Naperville or near Naperville, and Elmhurst hopefully in Elmhurst. Makes it easy to keep track of that one. And then Stroger Hospital of Cook County downtown. And it was great to be in each of those places. Edward and Elmhurst are kind of interesting, right? West or southwest suburbs of Chicago, and beautiful hospitals. And it was great to be hosted at each of those. Kim Derry gave us our chair and a chair of our board, and alumnus gave us a great tour of Elmhurst Hospital or Elmwood. Oh yeah, Elmhurst Hospital. It was really fun. And then to meet with so many faculty and students at Cook County. So that was great. There must have been, I don't know, more than a dozen faculty who showed up to talk with us, and more than 20 students who are there right now. It was clear just how much the folks at Cook County appreciate our students, their dedication, and they come with a little something extra when they come to cook. Probably, I think it's related to the attitude of our students toward taking care of underserved populations and the experiences that they have here. But they're clearly just really appreciated at Cook. So that was great to see and a lot of fun. I got to ride the train and sit in traffic and all the full Chicagoland experiences. I also met this week with this Senate Council. So this is the leadership of the Faculty Council. I really appreciate meeting with them, their advice, what they're hearing. Feel free, I mean, by all means, for faculty, this is a great way for me to learn more about what people are thinking. The biggest topic was healthcare. So, and healthcare costs. This is going to be a part of the challenge of us having a flat budget. And so we just talked about sort of what uh, what they've heard and what we're working on. And there's no contract that's been signed. We're still talking to our brokers, still reviewing some of our options. So we'll have more opportunity to talk about that. But it was a good conversation. It was great to hear what people are thinking. I also this week got to visit with the Jumpstart students. So these are CMS students who they've all already started, right? So every CMS first year started June 15th, I think. And so, but this is another group of students who do some extra stuff to just make sure they're ready for the year, get some more skills. Uh, as a recovering dean, it was a lot of fun to talk to them. They're so enthusiastic, and there's nothing like a conversation before anything bad has happened to anybody. So anyway, it was great to meet with them. We continue on the search for the executive vice president for research. We've had some people come to visit. We have another one visiting this week. Then there will be a second visit for a finalist. The in the current system, it's really hard for us to get any time for people in with faculty and staff. And so we're going to bring a finalist back for another look and give them more opportunity to meet with faculty. So that's hopefully we're coming up on that next set and that next stage in the not too distant future. Lee is helping me, I am talking to Lee, and Lee is is starting the search for our provost. So we're working on the list for the committee and the job description and the advertising and getting all of that started. So I'm hopeful that we'll get that started in the not too distant future. I've decided to move that up some. We're not using a search firm, and I think it'd be great to get that done. So, and then of course, this week was sort of the kickoff for the strategic plan work. This is my segue into the main issue. So, we have Lee Conchas with us. She's our EVP for University Strategy and Chief of Staff in my office. She's did the last strategic plan or led that and has been a great leader for us. And so it's a real pleasure to work with her on these kinds of things. And she absolutely, as far as I can tell, enjoys every minute of thinking about a strategic plan. So, and I was only able to be at the beginning of the conversation today. Must have been 115 people or so in the Centennial Room. Is that right, Lee?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep.
Anyway, and I've heard from folks over the course of the week that they really enjoyed their time there, that they really uh, got to think about some things, got to meet some new people. And so it sounds like we got ourselves off to a great start, which is my segue over to Lee. And you have some conversation, some slides about what we've done in the past, and then, of course, what we're working on now. Feel free to put questions into the Q&A. Questions, first of all, always make this more fun. And if you have questions about any of the news that I talked about, or whatever you want to call that little update, or along the way, any questions about any of Lee's slides or our conversation, by all means, put them in the Q&A. Just as a spoiler alert, Lee does have some polling questions. So, hold on tight. So anyway, Lee?
Thank you so much. Well, nothing too difficult for a Friday afternoon. I'm so happy to see 116 people with us. So you have almost beat the number of people that we had at Centennial. So great job. I'm going to share some slides and we'll get started. So I'm going to be talking about two things today. One is going to be our current progress on our existing strategic plan, and then how we're thinking about the next strategic plan and how we're preparing for that and the process that we'll use for it. But starting first with the current plan, some of you may recall that this plan kicked off in January of 2024. There was a midpoint review, and that midpoint review is available on our website through that QR code or that short URL. You're able to see the accomplishments of that midway point, and then the plan is scheduled to wrap up in January of 2027. So in these last essentially 6 months of this plan, we still have to execute on the existing strategies and at the same time plan for the new one. Our current plan has 27 goals, and I'm happy to report that 24 are exactly where we would expect them to be. Of the remaining 3, there were 2 goals that have been in some manner impacted by new federal policies, and so we've had to either rethink those or, just take a different approach. One of the goals, which is the optimization of the academic portfolio, in essence, that really never ends. So it's something that you would never see at a completion point. It's going to continue. We've accomplished a whole heck of a lot in these last almost 3 years of working on this plan. Everything from maximum years of accreditation across all programs, the launch of various academic programs. We filled the Helix 51 incubator space, and we're expanding into the IRP, have expanded into the IRP. And we've also done things around risk, whether it's enterprise-wide risk, specific to cybersecurity, specific to campus safety. So there have been advancements across the entire university. There are 3 areas that I'm going to highlight because they really have made a tremendous difference to our university, and there have been teams that have been very hard at work, and I want to lift up their great work. I want to start with the work in enrollment and in marketing. Brian Moody has been fantastic with Lisa Bear and Sarah Kelly. These are teams that have had to work very diligently, especially as there has been a lot of change that has been introduced by federal uncertainty. In marketing, they took the last, I want to say that it was about 12 months to really study the brand and motivators for our students. And they have been working with enrollment management to then tweak the strategies that we use to reach prospective students. They've really leaned hard into the data, and the university has also made investments in the bench strength that we have in these respective offices. So what has that led to? And keep in mind, these numbers are from March, so they've changed just a little bit, but directionally, they're still trending in the right direction. Overall, all applications up 33%. That's probably ticked up a couple of points since then. But if you look across all of our programs, you see that growth. That also leads to additional application revenue for the institution. But you're probably wondering, great, that's applications, but how does it yield? So let me show you how that yields. And yield is who actually says yes to us and matriculates at our university. So we're looking across the last 3 academic years of 23, 24, 25, and then you see the forecast for this upcoming year. Those are the blue bars. What you see in the green are the incremental investments that the university has made in marketing, because we know that we're underfunded in some marketing areas. And you see that with very modest increases in the marketing spend, we've yielded results. And as we look to invest close to $1 million in a new website in fiscal year 27, which we just started on July 1, you will see that that is going to pay off. The more that we invest in marketing, the more of an ROI I know that we can deliver through these great teams. Another area that we've done a lot of work in is how we utilize our spaces. So we have more than 1 million square feet of space at the university that we always have to think about and we always have to optimize. Thanks to Gavin Ferry's leadership back in 2023, we conducted an exercise across the university over the course of 8 months that involved user groups, faculty, staff, focus groups with students. And the result of that was having a roadmap that identified what are our immediate projects, what are near-term projects, and what do we aspire to over the next, 5 or 10 years. But we really took a look at those immediate term projects. And I'm going to identify one of those that'll look familiar to you in the next slide. It's the virtual health system. So if you haven't toured through it yet, I highly suggest that you make some time with Dr. Carlson and his staff to go through it, because it really is phenomenal in the experience that we can offer our students. We took our Huntley location and we brought that back into North Chicago. So we consolidated locations, and the consolidation yielded $1.25 million in savings. At the same time, the vision was so bold and so exciting that we were able to attract $11 million in state funding. Many of you know that we have these old buildings over on the FHCC side, even though many of them sit on what looks of the campus of the Federal Healthcare Center. Those are our buildings. We are responsible for them. And we have been limited in our ability to do anything with that land because there is an overly restrictive covenant that was signed many, many years ago. And for the last 3 years, we have been working with the state of Illinois to get all of this cleaned up. This is my baby, near and dear to my heart. We're kind of on our last lap with the state of Illinois, really hopeful that we're gonna be able to get this to the right spot. But the important accomplishment here is that we now have agreement from the state of Illinois that the covenant should not cover 15 buildings. It only needs to cover 1. It's the Dewey House, and that we can live with. So that's the part that we're working with. And we also have an MOU with an outside entity that is interested in developing some of that land. So it's exciting. We can finally put that land to good use. The last one that I want to talk about is the Woodlands Apartments. Those are the apartments that are directly to the south of our campus. Gavin Ferry, the Board of Trustees, Shelley Brzezicki, many people worked on giving us a new contractual structure that not only gave us operational savings, but also gave us more control over the student experience over there. And if the university wanted to, we would have a path to ownership in the future. The third area I want to highlight is institutional advancement, which right now is led by our interim vice president, George Redden. And several years ago, the Board of Trustees made significant investments in advancement. And what we did as an institution was we took a look at the old model of fundraising, which was really around loyalty, like, oh, you're class of X, great, you've got a reunion. Or you live in this geographic area, we'll come meet you and your classmates. That was too unidimensional. What we're looking at now and have for several years is more of the influencer-based model. Why? Because if you're only talking about alumni or class of, we're leaving out community partners, civic leaders, industry executives. There's so many people out there that are partnering with us on our mission. So now we look at everything from gender, interest, what stage of life they're in, what their capacity is, what generation they're in. All of that influences how we speak to them and how we connect with people. For institutional advancement to have this pivot from the unidimensional model to the multidimensional model, they pursued three major strategies. Those were outlined on the left. Major and transformational giving. We were going to go after the big fish, not ignoring the little fish, but we're going to go after the big fish. Two is we really wanted to make sure that our communications was tailored to the individual, speaking to that person, because now we know more about them. We know more about their motivations. And the third was stewardship and making sure that we were treating our donors in a way that they should be treated and that they see the impact that their philanthropy has. So we go from, for example, let's take Helix magazine, which is what I've highlighted on the slide. Helix used to be, oh, let's tell our alumni stories. And we were kind of talking to ourselves in a way. And we said, nah, let's pivot this. Let's go from alumni engagement again to stakeholder engagement. You've seen how our storytelling has changed. I hope that you are reading the magazine or sharing those stories on social media. And we now intentionally buy certain zip codes in the Chicagoland region so that we can get our name out there, get our stories and our mission impact out there, and invite partnership and philanthropy. But have we been successful? I would say yes, we have. Now, I'm not going to say that our numbers have gone up because of Helix. But I will say that our rolling 5-year average is trending up because we're doing a better job of our storytelling and creating emotional connections, improving what we do in the region. So since the strategic plan launched in January of 2024, we've raised just shy of $22 million. You see the growth that we've had in total philanthropy and bequest and alumni giving and individual giving as well. So all really good things. The strategic plan has every single category has kind of like these Uber metrics, and they're all trending in the right direction. What do I mean by Uber metrics? Well, if you take, for example, a Department of Education composite score, that is one score that is made up of about 9 different other data points that go into it. And you could argue that with each one of these indicators, there are layers of data that exist under each of these. But you can rest assured that we're all trending in the right direction. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to see if there are any questions about the current strategic plan.
There was one question from Anonymous. What is an MOU and what is SHPO?
Oh, well, thank you very much for asking that. I'm sorry, that was shorthand and I shouldn't have done that. MOU is Memorandum of Understanding. It is something that says that two entities are agreeing to do something, and there's always an out clause for them. So it's just the vision that you have at that point. SHPO is the State Historic Preservation Office.
There we go.
Okay. So now I'm going to pivot to the next strategic plan, which is what we're working on right now. And here's your first Zoom poll. So as we begin thinking about the next 5 years, which mindset are you bringing today? And we'll leave that up there for a few seconds as people respond. And Jonna, I'm not able to see kind of
Yep.
when we have a good response. I'll let you.
We'll give it a couple more seconds. Got
Thank you.
56% participation. Keep it coming.
And if you're ready for lunch, that's okay. I put that one in there on purpose.
I already ate. I mean, like I eat before this. but
I had a late breakfast.
did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share the results.
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of topped out at 95 people. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Can you see the results?
Yep, I sure can. And nobody's ready for lunch. Okay, so everybody ate ahead of time. Got it.
Something.
Okay. Yep.
That's a remarkably um broad set of opinions.
Diversity of thought. I love it.
Well, it's kind of interesting. All right.
So as we're approaching the new plan, how are we thinking about it? Obviously, it needs to be mission-centered, always, evidence-informed, inclusive. We're going to be very intentional about inviting voices to the table. And I'm going to talk more about ways in which we're doing that. Focused. We know that the last plan had 27 goals, and over the course of time, we've gotten a lot of feedback on that. You can expect that we will have listened to that feedback. Flexible in execution always, that worked well for our last plan. When a lot of uncertainty was inserted into higher education and in healthcare, we have been able to persist. And it's because our current plan is mission-centered and because we are a nimble institution, and then grounded in shared governance. And I'll talk more about that as well. That's very important to us. At the same time that we are in the strategic planning phase, we're doing something else that is very important, and that is preparing for this comprehensive campaign. If you've been to these town halls before or read any of Erin's updates on Fridays, you know that we're talking about this. It is a major undertaking for the institution. So everything that we're doing around the strategic plan and listening, we're also listening for campaign signals around there. What could indicate donor interest or partnership opportunity? And ultimately, these two things need to come together so that we're lifting our mission even more. Here's what our process is going to be at a glance, and right now we're in July, so I made those green for you just to focus on that. We have held just this week a mission to impact session, and that is something that I'll cover in about 2 slides. 100 people up in Centennial, thinking deeply about some of the opportunities in front of the university, and everyone on campus will have an opportunity to participate in those same questions through a virtual charrette. With Dr. Mahira Chan's help, I'm hopefully going to have that out the door for you guys today. We always invite external perspectives as well, whether it's alumni, partners, elected officials. They will participate in this too. And then, of course, there's an environmental scan that needs to occur. Throughout August, we're going to go into data synthesis and drafting these pillars and objectives. We will share some of this work out with the university for feedback. But the major goal is that by the time that we get to the mid-September board meeting, we have to have a university plan in draft form that is presented to the trustees. That is then the trustees' opportunity to give us hey, did you think about this? Or they often say, how do the faculty feel about this? So they want to make sure that there is that inclusion. And that's where your participation becomes so important. After that board meeting in mid-September, we'll refine, optimize throughout October and November with the goal of delivering the final plan to the board in early December and then launching it in January. Okay, so this will be a nice little input opportunity for us. As you look ahead to the next 5 years, which word best describes the moment you think RFU is in?
So while people are answering that, David Harrison has a question. When are we anticipating hiring a permanent advancement VP? And we are, there are 3 main leadership position hires that we're working on. So the EVPR is the first one. And, we can see our way to being nearly done with that one. And then we're starting the provost one. And then probably about the time that Jonna feels like, oh, well, we've got that one under control, that's about probably the time I'll ask that we start on the VP position. And we're using Corn Ferry to help us with that one. So I would guess we're several months away from starting it, but yet this year we should be deep into that search.
Interesting results.
Yeah, there's a lot of so John, I got a question. Can people see the results as they're answering?
No,
Oh,
they can't see while they're answering so everyone gives an objective opinion.
Interesting. All right. Because
but they
this,
can see the final results, right?
Right.
yeah, but they
Okay.
can't, for example, somebody isn't moved by the fact that there are this many people representing change versus
Right.
transition.
Can't be seen.
So, right, so they can't see it. Well, it's fascinating because once again, I mean, I can't do the statistics this quickly, but it's a pretty broad set of opinions.
Yep. Well, thank you for that. That helps us. One of the first things that we did with this planning process was to review our mission, vision, and our values. It is something that we had reviewed at the beginning of our last strategic plan. So this would have been in 23 when we went through this. But there was an extensive process around values specifically for the university. So we didn't think that we really had to go back to the drawing board on any of this. But we did want to have an opportunity to get a survey out to all faculty, staff, and students. There were more than 3,000 people that were invited to participate in the survey. We got about a 9% response rate. And thank you again to Institutional Effectiveness and Decision Support for doing all of the analysis associated with this. I'm happy to share that I was very pleasantly surprised. We got 6% of the responses came from students. That's 77 students participating over the summer. That's pretty good. So we got a good array of people. And overall, we've got 93% support for affirming mission, 90 for vision, and 94 for values. And here is the distribution of the primary affiliation of the respondents. So lots of responses from Chicago Medical School, then people that associate themselves with administration, and then the balance of the colleges and different units.
Although it may be the case that the clinics had the highest percentage response.
Yeah, that could be. And so we do feel that there is strong support for the current mission, vision, and the values. I wasn't surprised that the core values ranked the highest because there had been so much work done across the institution under Sally Madden's leadership. There was a group that met for, I want to say, it was close to 12 months. If Sally's here, she'd correct me. And please keep me true. Sally, if you're here, you could just drop a comment in the chat. There were, I think, 80 people that worked on the core values across the university, defining the values as well. There's been a lot of campus education on the values and how we bring those to life. So thank you for all of that.
So we have a question based on that little bit of survey. Is a 9% response rate good?
Not sure.
Well,
So I don't
I
know.
mean, I
Aaron,
don't know
what
what
you would
I don't know
say.
what I don't know what the answer is in the marketing world, right? But it's not a surprising number. I'll say that. But no, we would love to have everybody. That would be a great number. But I don't think for an email survey, it's a surprising result. And I think the question gets to really, should we believe the answer, right? That's what that sort of, did we get enough people responding? And the fact that there's not a large contingent of people disagreeing is probably meaningful, right? So the agreement is great, and the fact that there's not a large number of people disagreeing, both probably good things, despite the fact that we all would like a bigger response rate.
So there were two questions at the end of the mission, vision, and values survey that asked, what should we emphasize in the next strategic plan? And we just did a word cloud here for you. I don't think there's anything that jumps out from this page that would be a surprise. Student, community, interprofessional collaboration, our mission, focus, education, research. And then we also did a word cloud for the second question, which was, is there anything that we should keep in mind as we're beginning the next planning process? Mission, value, student, vision. So nothing that jumped out as areas of concern.
No, but that value one is an interesting thing, isn't it? That's a interesting to see that show up as prominently as it does.
And going back, reflecting on the comments, I would say that it probably speaks to two different things. One is talking about the value that we bring to our community and our position in the community, and also taking a look at, student access and affordability.
Sure.
So next poll, what matters most in a strong 5-year strategic plan? We're in the home stretch, guys.
I'm still going.
Okay, a lot of thought being put into this. I like it. Probably the hard part is you can only pick one.
But this one's got a little bit more going on in it.
Measurable progress. Yeah, got it. Realistic ambition.
Clear focus.
Yep.
And there's some love for the Zoom polls from Anonymous.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. I'm glad you're liking this.
But Jeff Lang
know
asks
that
what
it's
Jeff Lang asks why I thought there'd be a lunch option for each poll. It's a fair point, Jeff. I mean, we did whet the appetite, as it were, from the beginning.
when Jeff is the one that I'm usually texting during commencement and saying, "Can you please drone me a sandwich or something?" Uh, okay, well, thank you very much for answering the polls.
Can everybody, so Jonna, can people see this one?
Yeah, everybody could see the answers when I
Okay.
shared it.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Okay, so the mission to impact session that we just had on July 7th. That is where we invited essentially 100 and some people into Centennial Room. We wound up having a hybrid event. So we had probably another 20 people, I'm guessing, Jonna, if that's right, on the Zoom option.
Yeah.
And it was really an ideation session. We gave people questions that we wanted them to engage in and respond. And it's, again, going to be the exact same questions that you're going to get in the virtual charrette. Yep. And here are those questions. So in the past, oh, not yet, Jonna. Yeah, thank you. In the past, not this last plan, but the one prior, the university would use a SWOT. And what we noticed is that we kind of came up with the same responses over and over again. So with the last strategic plan, we said, hey, let's use a different framework. And we went with SOAR, strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. So it's a little bit more future oriented and results oriented. The questions that you have in front of you are the ones that are going to be in the charrette that you get. It's going to be a survey. So I'm giving you a preview so you can start thinking about them now. And here's, I think this is going to be one of the last questions for our Zoom poll. Which external forces should the university be especially mindful of as we plan for the next 5 years? And again, you can only choose one, so I know it's difficult.
Yeah, we have a question or a comment, I guess, from Anonymous that they were both realistic ambition and measurable progress on the last one, which it's hard to argue with either. Oh, that one's kind of interesting too.
I don't see the results yet on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are still going. Okay, here
Oh,
we
really?
go.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone likes to vote.
Hmm. Jonna, will we be able to capture the results of this? Can you send these to
Yes,
me? Okay,
the report is available.
Yep.
wonderful. That's really, really helpful. And thank you to everyone who's again participating in this. Okay, so what happens after we go through all of this input? Because we're going to have the strategy session up in Centennial. We're going to have the charrette. We're going to do focus groups with the community. We're going to survey our alumni, partners, etc. Well, from there, we've got to take all of that and we've got to synthesize that into themes. And thank goodness I've got an amazing partner in both Dr. Mahir Shand and also Dr. Susie Calkins and just individuals around the institution that are very willing to do some of this work with me and look at these themes. From there, all of that, goes through this path of becoming draft pillars and objectives. And those are the things that we're going to want feedback on are going to be when we get to those objectives and those goals. So we're not going to go into publishing all of the raw comments, but you will have an opportunity to review the work that is being done, which again is probably going to come, I'm going to guess, middle to late August. So here's that timeline that I just went through. Where we're at right now, summer of 2026, the importance of giving to the trustees a draft plan by that September board meeting. October to November, we're refining, finalizing, and then in December, the trustees are getting a plan for their approval, which then launches in January. Last poll, 5 years from now, what would you hope RFU is known for?
That's another interesting set of results. They all are self-reinforcing as well. I mean, like creating outstanding health professionals can be a part of how you make a distinctive regional and national impact. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, that's a interesting, interesting distribution.
And that is it for my presentation today. I am happy to come to any departments to answer questions related to the strategic plan, or if you want to reach out to me and you're curious about, where things stand, please reach out to me anytime. I really appreciate everyone participating in this. It's a really important process for educational excellence, for research excellence, for service excellence, and also, of course, for accreditation. So thank you.
And this is a great time to ask questions, right? I mean, I think so we have some. So Lisa Hopp asks, how do we need to think about the political environment as a part of the context for our next strategic plan?
So I would say that we're always thinking about that. We're lucky enough to have Nick Hilliaris on staff, who is our Associate Vice President for Government Relations. And Nick is giving cabinet members updates all of the time on what is happening. That allows us to evaluate at that point in time, pivot if we need to, or develop new strategies to, respond to the shifting waters.
Yeah, and I think my answer is that that's why mission is so important, right? So, and maybe some of the pieces that where we think about what we care about most, because there's the old proverb, right? The more things change, the more they stay the same. And so, we are, I say this over and over again, but we are delighted and honored to be a part of the 500-year Enlightenment experiment. And it's our job to discover things, create new knowledge, pass that on to the next generation of scholars and professionals. and have those people go out into the world to do great work, everything from more discovery to helping our neighbors. So, I mean, that kind of work is what we have to be about. It doesn't matter what the politics are or how bad the politics are. That's still what universities are about and what Rosalind Franklin University has always been about in its various guises. So, that being said, tactically, we have to pay a lot of attention to it, right? So, we're going to remain legal. We're going to, and we're going to focus on doing our work, and we have to be tactically smart about doing that. But I don't know that a strategic plan depends on um, necessarily the vicissitudes of any particular election. As long as we don't get too tactical in our strategic plan. I suppose that would be the marker of a plan that's too tactical, is that, it depends on some action by the government. Anonymous says technology and AI have infiltrated healthcare so much with no mindfulness regarding the environmental and health effects of the data centers and the decrease in cognitive skills. That's number one. Number two, I am most concerned about low-income students' ability to pay for postgraduate degrees. So I guess I'm going to go with thoughts on that, Lee, because there's no specific question in there.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, I'll say, in times past, an institution like ours probably would hire a consultant to help with something like this. AI makes it possible for us to do this work without a consultant or without additional hands, which is an interesting, or additional brains, which is a wonderful and terrible thing. So I think that's a fascinating thing to look at. We spend a lot of time, probably too much time, thinking about AI in terms of what it means or doesn't mean. And 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 we have to realize that our work is taking care of people, and that's what we're going to do. So, but absolutely right. I mean, that we aren't spending enough time as a society thinking about what this means or what it means to our environment, or what the built environment then does to people. And we are concerned about what this means, particularly to around financing of education, particularly for students who don't come from generational wealth. So we've got a whole group of people working diligently on how we're going to address that problem. And like all solutions, like all problems, there's never one single solution. And there is some uncertainty tactically about what the state or other parts of the government will do. But there are some things we can control, and there are some relationships we're looking at with mission-based lenders who might be able to help our students or might help us engage with our students in some way. So we know that that is a core challenge for our students. Yeah. I'll just put a plug in for some other pieces around that. One of the things that the timing or the time limits on federal loans and lifetime ban is that extensions are particularly expensive for students. I think that the federal government's concept that if you extend over illness, you're going to lose your grant funding, your loan funding, is probably illegal under the ADA, but that's going to be solved in court at some point. But right now, it probably is legal for them to have a time limit. And when our students go over for academic reasons, then they're stuck. So we need to be mindful and thoughtful about how we structure opportunities for students to remediate, what that means, how we can keep students progressing in a way that is respectful to their time and treasure, but also, we are about producing high quality graduates, so we can't lose track of that either. Anonymous says a visible charrette is helpful as we get to see everyone's ideas, which gets the wheels of thought turning.
Yeah, we used to do charrettes on the bridge, and those were really cool to be able to see one another's thoughts. Trying to be a little bit more digital. There's still ways in which we can do that. There are things like mural boards and others, but I'll think how we might be able to reproduce some of that same energy. Thank you.
I like it being digital. Half of our students are not on campus at any given time, and our clinical faculty are not on campus the vast majority of time. We need to figure out how we include those people, or give them the opportunity to do this work without having to come all the way to campus. Number two from Anonymous above is a great concern here too, and I've kind of lost track of what number two was from above.
It
Unless
was
that was the financing
low-income
of student loans.
students. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Pamela Chambers, are the answers of the participants matching what you anticipated? I think those are from the polling. Is that what you were thinking you would see when you put those polls together, Lee?
I wasn't quite sure what I was going to get, so I would say yes, it matches because it's a surprise.
Anonymous, any update on what's been achieved for biomedical research under the current strategic plan and the priorities for it in the next strategic plan? Thanks.
I don't know what's going to be in the next strategic plan. That is something that we're all going to be able to work on together. For the current plan, of course, I know that we've recruited scientists to the university. We've had the achievements of the filling Helix 51, expanding that incubator space,
Increasing
attracting,
external funding. Yeah.
yep, and more industry as well into the IRP. But if you go to that short URL that I had at the beginning of the presentation, and Jonna, maybe you can put that in the chat if you happen to have that short URL. You'll be able to read what that interim report for our strategic plan is, and it'll call out the specific achievements for research.
Yeah, chat's not really available, so we'll have to, is there, maybe we can put your slide back up at some point
Sure.
after we worked our way through some questions. Susanna Calkins asks, how do you view the connections between strategic plan and comprehensive campaign? Is one driving or advancing the other? Yes. So a comprehensive campaign is there to support the work of the university, and we will be focusing assuredly on four core areas, right? Student scholarships, faculty support, programmatic support, and space, because every comprehensive campaign does that. The question is how and with what kind of language, and where do our donors want, are they most interested, and where are we most focused? It's that second piece that the strategic plan helps put together. So core big questions like in the last one, starting a nursing college, right? That is a big, big, hairy, audacious goal, right? That the university did a remarkable job achieving. And those kind of big strategic moves are things that a campaign would help do. Uh, you know, you have to have a donor willing. So we don't have just a bucket of donors where we can say so and so wants to do X, Y, or Z. Could you help us? Usually, donors have a very specific thing that they're interested in that we try to interest them in a way that we aren't creating new work for the university, but engaging in work that fits with our strategic plan. So they have to work together. It's the very short version of what was otherwise a long answer. Lee, any thoughts, more thoughts about that?
No, I think you covered it.
What would be the plan for the buildings no longer protected under historic preservation, hopefully not to be raised? Well, so some of those buildings certainly are not usable or remediable. Some of them have large amounts of asbestos and other things in them. Some of them are not actually historically interesting. So, but I will admit that some of those officers' quarters along there on the way to the Dewey's house, you look at those and you think, well, it would be cool to do something with them, but it's very difficult to do something with them. And if we were to do like military housing or some other housing or something like that, it would be difficult for those buildings to be a part of it. But we'll have to see what kind of, we've been talking about what is the highest and best use of that space. We have the memorandum of understanding is important, but it is not a contract. And it doesn't mean that they have to come through with the money to do the project. So that's all sort of up in the air. Can we build in joy to help prevent burnout?
think that's quite interesting. So we look at, staff wellness, student wellness, we look at the different aspects of wellness. I hope that when the charrette goes out, that is a comment that you'll be able to put in there. And if you have specific ideas of what that would look like in a strategy for a university, I'd love to read about that.
So I had a strategic plan just a few years ago that had joy as one of the goals. I don't know that that worked. I mean, I think it helped put it in the forefront of people's minds. But you really do have to take care of each other. That's the fundamental thing, and you have to find ways to give people new opportunities and opportunities to grow and take on new projects. Um, and that there are lots of things that go into preventing burnout. Joy is a wonderful thing, often controlled by the person, but we can certainly try to find ways to encourage that regardless of what's in the strategic plan. Ryan Cruz, in the efforts to be mindful of the impact of the strategic plan on philanthropy, is outside input being sought from Lake County biopharma life sciences companies?
So we've got an outside company that is a consultant that is working with our university on the structure of this comprehensive campaign. And part of that involves talking to others outside of the university. So that is all in motion, and we're in the very early days of that.
And, we have a variety of areas of engagement with the economic community around us. And we're members of the Economic Development Partnership in Lake County. But that is an important part of what we do. From Anonymous, how are you planning to ensure that capacity, for example, resources, personnel, time, will remain aligned with the aspirations of the strategic plan?
So when we present the draft to the trustees in September, we're also starting to engage in a process around a 5-year financial reset. We do this every single year. We take a look at the university and we try to look out 5 years into the future. And we build a financial model around that. Of course, it has to get updated every single year because assumptions change, reality changes. So all of these things start intersecting between the strategic plan, the 5-year financial plan, a comprehensive campaign, which will also potentially impact the level of resources that come into the university.
Will we have access to your slides?
Yep, I just sent them over to Jana, and I hope that she will be able to get those out to you guys.
And if nothing else, you'll find them we'll post the town hall and you can see them there. What words, ideas are pulling in donor interest and involvement that are part of the strategic plan? I mean, there's a lot of interest in scholarships and there's a lot of interest in programming. So of one sort or another. We don't have a transformational gift yet. So I can't say that there's anything in particular that's making a huge narrative dent in what we're doing. But there's nothing in the strategic plan that concerns me in terms of our donors, nor do I think that, anything that a donor would be interested in would we wouldn't be interested in that radically taking the university off in a different direction. So, but I'm still meeting people, and most people are interested in scholarships or things like that. So far it's the two are not intersecting too much. How is the university assessing whether few of the core values such as integrity, justice, respect are being practiced in the day-to-day interactions, which can be a big deal for some depending on the circumstances, given that these can be difficult to capture through traditional methods?
I know that part of the evaluation process for staff includes, demonstration of how are you living the core values. So that's one way in which to do that. I don't know if Sally's around and if, she has an opportunity to chime in, but if not, that's the one thing that came to mind. And of course, we've got, a code of conduct and just expectations of, civility.
I mean, that is one of the tactical process questions you can take, right? Is take those values and make sure that they're in evaluations of faculty, staff, and students. I don't know to what extent that's been done, but That is a process part of how such a thing can happen. Is there a plan for the anticipated increase in ADA requests and how we're planning to accommodate these requests with the correct amount of resources, space, proctors, et cetera? And I'm going to say this is a part of keeping the doors open, not a strategic planning effort. I mean, we know that this has been increasing over the last several years. We have to be mindful of this for space because it comes into testing. We have to be mindful of this for this in the budget because we need more and more people to proctor or supervise or things like that. So I think of this as a daily doing business question rather than a strategic question. But I don't know, Lee, would you disagree with that or think about it differently?
No, I would agree with you. Yeah.
Is it difficult to measure things like joy or kindness? It is difficult to measure things like joy or kindness, but incredibly important for us to include these in our culture. No doubt. No doubt. Just wanted to ask if there were any updates regarding the status of the university's building renovation and redesign projects. I realize funding is the main obstacle, but I was curious if there had been any recent progress on the initiative.
So that campus master plan that I talked about in my presentation, because we have made such headway on all of those immediate term goals that we had starting a few years ago, we're now refreshing under Gavin's leadership that campus master plan. What needs to come next? And then we figure out, how do we fund this? How does it flow into a 5-year plan? Where do we need to identify state or private dollars, et cetera, et cetera? And that's happening right now.
Yeah, I'll say we've been looking at the strategic plan because we're looking at some of the empty spaces, trying to figure out what is the highest and best use of those and what would it cost. And that is a fundraising opportunity for the capital campaign. So, for example, students want a gymnasium, which would be great. That would be a wonderful thing for us to have, and it would be a great opportunity for alumni or others who want to help support students and their wellness. So uh, that's one of the places where the master plan and the funding opportunities come together, whether it's more study space for students or better working space or any of those or recreation space. And Anonymous says, to be fair, we haven't focused on much other than scholarships these past few years. And here's where I should say, pass on my congratulations to everybody for the successful conclusion of the scholarship campaign, which came in 113% above goal, which is a great result. I think it really sets us up for our next set of work. And a comprehensive campaign, which we haven't started, and which even when we will start, it will be in a quiet phase, which isn't secret, but is not public per se. So anyway, everybody should be congratulated, particularly the folks over in IA, for all of their work in bringing the scholarship campaign to a successful conclusion. So we're nearing the top of the hour. Lee, you've done a great job on this and the last plan. Oh, and Alice Dreger asks 113% above goal or 113% of goal. So a great question, Alice, and 113% of goal. Lee, anything that you want to make sure that you mention on our way out?
No, I'm just so grateful that, more than 100 people showed up on a Friday afternoon to talk about a strategic plan. Like,
Isn't
who
that
knew?
amazing?
So
Isn't that
thank you.
awesome? Yeah. All right. Well, Lee, thank you for all of your work on this. Thank you for your leadership. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. Thanks for all you do to support our faculty, our staff, and our students. It is the work of people like you that make the university such a special place to be. It is Friday. I hope you get to have a weekend. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.